You've worked for 30 years, saved every dollar, and now you just want a place to retire in peace. But if you choose the wrong city, your dream home could turn into a financial nightmare that haunts you for the rest of your life. California's housing bubble is inflating, and if you're over 50, just picking the wrong city could wipe out your entire retirement plan. In 2025, the market is shifting rapidly, but most real estate videos only talk about great prices, prime locations, and must invest. The truth behind it is this: high taxes, soaring insurance costs, a stagnant market, and homes that are hard to sell, especially if you're over 50. Today's video will expose 10 cities that seem ideal, but are actually financial traps that middle-aged and older buyers need to avoid. We're not advertising, we're analyzing based on real data, real stories, and real warnings. If you're considering buying a home to retire, relocating for a new lifestyle, or simply making your final bet on real estate, watch this video to the end. It could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Chapter 10. Fountain Valley. When stability becomes a false promise. They call Fountain Valley a great city for seniors, but no one tells you that the very peace and quiet could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in just a few years. That house at the end of a tree-lined street used to be the pride of the Thompsons, age 58, when they bought it in 2022 for nearly $1.4 million. They didn't hesitate to take on a large mortgage, thinking, "This city is stable, home values will never fall." But by 2025, when they wanted to sell and move closer to their grandchildren in another state, they faced a harsh reality. Real estate in Fountain Valley was no longer easy to liquidate, and if they wanted to sell, they'd lose at least $80,000. The market is cooling faster than they expected. The average time to sell a home in Fountain Valley has surpassed 50 days, while just a few years ago, houses were being snapped up the moment they hit the market. New listings are up more than 30%, creating a scene of plenty of sellers, but too few buyers. One by one, older homeowners are dropping prices, $50,000 to $100,000, just to get someone to call and ask. The median home price has hit $137 million, but don't let that number fool you. With current interest rates hovering around 6.97%, monthly mortgage payments can exceed $7,200, not including insurance, taxes, or HOA fees. For those over 50, no longer at peak income or already retired, this is the formula for a never-ending stream of negative cash flow. And if you're thinking, "Well, I'll just hold on, wait for the market to rebound, and then sell," be careful. Because even if you do hold, the cost of ownership is rising in ways many never anticipated. Home insurance premiums have surged after recent major wildfires. Fountain Valley may not be surrounded by forests, but according to Realtor data, nearly 40% of homes in California now fall into high fire risk zones, leading many major insurance companies to either withdraw from the market or raise premiums uncontrollably. The result? Many homeowners, like the Thompsons, are forced into the state's FAIR plan. Minimum coverage, limited benefits, but prices that are anything but cheap. Fountain Valley, once an ideal retirement haven, now feels like a luxury ship veering off course. Those who boarded at high prices, thinking they had bought security, are now realizing they are the ones paying the price as cash flow stalls, the market freezes, and hidden costs quietly eat away at every dollar of their savings. Are you planning to buy a home in Fountain Valley to settle into old age? Ask yourself again, are you buying peace of mind or locking yourself into a financial trap where escape means bleeding money? 9 Oakland. When a house is no longer a safe haven. In July 2025, a property auction held in downtown Alameda County shook the entire market. Of the 22 foreclosed homes put up for sale, more than half came from Oakland. A 3-bedroom house in Havenscourt, once valued at over $800,000 in 2021, was sold under the hammer for just $489,000. That moment became the symbol of the quiet fracture in the city's housing market. All I worked for over 30 years was to hold on to this house, and now it's not even worth enough to let me retire. The choked words of a 62-year-old woman living in deep East Oakland, and she's far from the only case. Oakland isn't just losing value, it's in free fall. The current median home value is only $701,629, down a staggering 10.3% in just 1 year. Some neighborhoods like Eastmont, Havenscourt, or Seminary have lost up to 30% of their value compared to the start of the decade, with no signs of recovery. For those entering retirement and counting on their home as a strategic asset, this is nothing short of a complete financial nightmare. Scarier still is how the market is reacting. The average transaction time is now just 25 days, which might sound like the market is hot. But in reality, it's a sign of a massive wave of sellers rushing to offload properties, willing to take deep losses just to escape the ticking time bomb before it explodes even further. The ones who sell later will be hit the hardest, because prices keep dropping. The cost of home ownership is also climbing in a silent and ruthless way. HOA fees in complexes like Eastlake, Fruitvale, or older townhouse rows have jumped 30% from 2019 to 2024. Some residents report paying as much as $500 per month, even though maintenance is in terrible shape. For those 50-plus living on pensions or fixed savings, that's a recurring expense that can destroy a retirement budget in just a few years. And then comes insurance, once considered the final safety net. After major wildfires in Eastern California and persistently high theft rates in the area, many insurance companies have flat out pulled out of the Oakland market. The ones that stayed have raised premiums by 20 to 40%, and countless residents, especially older homeowners, have been forced onto California's FAIR plan, which costs more but offers far fewer protections. Translation: if your house suffers serious damage, don't expect insurance to cover the rebuild. A 55-year-old man, recently divorced and living alone in Upper Fruitvale, shared, "I want to sell my house and move closer to my daughter in Sacramento. But after 5 months, no one has come to see it, let alone make an offer. I feel like I'm trapped inside my own asset." Oakland was once the promised land for working-class families. Today, it's a living lesson in what happens when you stake everything on an asset that no longer grows in value. Are you living in Oakland? Do you believe your home will give you peace of mind in retirement? Or is it quietly draining you month after month, dollar by dollar? 8. Dana Point. When the dream of living by the ocean turns into a raging wave. In January 2025, a sudden wildfire spread right to the edge of Dana Point. Overnight, dozens of households were ordered to evacuate, including the Martinezes, 67 and 65 years old, who had just moved here to enjoy retirement. Everything in their garage was destroyed. The backyard fence turned to ash, and 6 months later, something worse happened. Their insurance company refused to renew their policy. Dana Point, the coastal jewel of Orange County, was once the ideal retirement haven, the dream destination for middle-aged people seeking peace along the Pacific. But now, that beauty is being overshadowed by financial waves and environmental threats, growing more violent by the year. Homes here may still look luxurious on the outside, but behind that are listing prices being adjusted downward, for sale signs lingering longer than usual, and anxious homeowners waiting for buyers who never show up. They say the average time to sell a home in Dana Point isn't long, only about a month. But that doesn't reflect safety. It reflects buyers' caution and sellers' desperation. More and more homeowners are cutting prices deeply just to escape the massive burden called ownership costs. Taxes, maintenance, insurance, all climbing relentlessly. After a series of natural disasters, major insurance companies have either pulled out of the area or hiked premiums at a dizzying pace. Older residents, living on pensions, now grit their teeth as they pay thousands of dollars each year for insurance policies that don't even cover full rebuilding when disaster strikes. Dana Point is still beautiful. The coastal roads are still poetic. The sunsets still magnificent. But behind that postcard image lies a harsh reality. When old age needs stability, this place has become a gamble. One day, the dream home could turn into the biggest financial burden of your life, not because it lost value, but because you can no longer afford to keep it. So if you're considering Dana Point as your retirement destination, are you ready to trade financial security for the sound of ocean waves every morning? 7. San Clemente, blue ocean, red insurance, and a retirement dream under threat. I used to think I'd spend my later years sipping coffee on the balcony, looking out at the ocean. Now every month I drink coffee and stress out over the insurance bill. A true story from a 58-year-old resident of San Clemente. San Clemente, the coastal town famous for its scenic beauty, is hiding a financial storm for middle-aged homeowners. The median home price here has surged past $1.68 million, with some sources showing the real median closer to $1.8 million, up 25.5% from last year. But this price growth comes with a troubling reality. The average time to sell has stretched to 71 days, showing the market is clearly slowing down. What once seemed like the perfect retirement spot now comes with a crushing insurance burden. After the wildfires earlier in 2025, insurance companies hiked premiums across the board, with some coastal areas like San Clemente seeing increases of 22 to 30%. Many carriers even pulled out entirely, forcing residents to rely on California's FAIR Plan, the last resort insurance program with high costs and limited coverage. The expenses don't stop there. Property taxes and maintenance costs are anything but light. On a $1.8 million home, annual property taxes alone, 6-7%, come to about $12,000, not including HOA dues or the extra costs of coastal maintenance against salt and moisture. For retirees living on fixed incomes, this is a long-term financial trap that can push monthly budgets into dangerous territory. A typical case: Linda, 63, widowed, moved to San Clemente after selling her Los Angeles home. Within just 2 years, her insurance and maintenance costs doubled compared to her plan. When she tried to move again, she had to cut nearly $100,000 off the asking price because the market had slowed down. San Clemente is still beautiful, still romantic. But for those over 50, the dream of retiring by the sea needs to be backed by a very solid financial plan. Are you thinking about living by the ocean in your later years? Share your thoughts below. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our next analysis. 6. Tustin. When the dream of living near family turns into a financial burden. We just wanted to live near our children, to pick up our grandkids from school every afternoon. But 3 years later, that dream has turned into a long-term debt. The confession of a retired couple who had to sell off their home in Tustin. Tustin, located right next to Irvine, with a prime spot in Orange County, was once the dream destination for older adults seeking stability and proximity to family. But now, the cost of living here is forcing many to retreat in bitter disappointment. The median home price in Tustin has now surpassed $1.21 million, and with mortgage rates at 7%, Monthly payments have soared past $7,400 before taxes and insurance. This is far beyond the reach of most people over 50 with fixed incomes or those already retired. Not only that, the Tustin market is clearly showing signs of slowing down. Nearly 40% of listings are being discounted. Inventory is rising, and selling times are longer than before. This signals that buyers are becoming more cautious, and sellers have to adjust their expectations. For those over 50, Tustin is no longer an easy place to settle down. Financial pressure comes from many sides: high mortgage payments, expensive home maintenance costs, and a lack of flexibility if they need to move elsewhere. If they are forced to sell when the market is weak, they are likely to face heavy losses just to get out in time. A typical case: a retired couple moved to Tustin to be near their grandchildren. After 3 years, they discovered that maintenance and living expenses far exceeded their plan, and when they needed to move, they were forced to slash the price to sell quickly, severely impacting their net worth. Tustin is still beautiful, still convenient, but for middle-aged and older adults, emotional value sometimes comes at too high of a financial cost. Are you considering living near your children in a city like Tustin? Think carefully about the numbers and leave a comment below to share your story. 5. Villa Park, a place of wealth, but also a trap of financial isolation. There are places where just stepping in makes you feel the difference. Wide streets, mansions separated by hundreds of feet, greenery shading everything like a luxury resort. Villa Park is exactly such a place, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Orange County. But beneath that expensive exterior lies a quiet truth. The market here is on the verge of collapse. According to Home Stratosphere, Villa Park ranks among the highest crash risk areas in the entire US, up to 95%. The reason? Home prices here have been inflated far beyond long-term trends, and now, no one has the means or the motivation to buy. Houses typically range from $2 to $5 million, sitting on lots as large as football fields. But buyers are fewer and fewer. Some homes have been listed for months without a single phone call, not because they aren't beautiful, but because no one wants to sink money into an asset with no liquidity. Middle-aged and older adults are the group most likely to get stuck in Villa Park. They may have bought when prices were better, but when the time comes to cash out, whether to move somewhere with lower living costs, pay for medical care, or support their children, they realize that their multi-million-dollar mansion is not easy to sell. The cost of ownership is anything but small. Property taxes, wildfire insurance, landscaping, pool maintenance, all can easily eat up thousands of dollars each month, even without a mortgage payment. One retired homeowner shared, "I thought this was a place to rest, but now it's a prison. Beautiful, spacious, and completely isolated financially." Villa Park is still a gem, but a fragile one, especially for those who need flexibility, cash flow, and stability in their final years. 4. Coto de Caza, when resort life turns into non-stop pressure. The feeling of living in a resort, where security guards man the gates 24/7, winding roads curve between wooded hills and multi-million-dollar estates. That was the dream for many preparing for retirement. And Coto de Caza, the exclusive, luxurious, gated community in southern Orange County, once promised exactly that. But today, the dream is being tested by the very things that once defined its value. Home prices in Coto de Caza now average over $2.05 million, with heavy fixed costs you only feel once you move in. Steep HOA fees, strict landscape maintenance costs, and crushing mortgage payments if purchased with financing. Everything is kept pristine to maintain the standard of living. But that is exactly why many are now pulling out. A middle-aged investor bought here aiming for high-end rentals. But after just 18 months, he was forced to sell at a loss because rental income couldn't cover the bills, maintenance, HOA, and interest. I thought there would be steady cash flow. Turns out it's a money vacuum that never stops, he said. The biggest problem with Coto de Caza isn't its appearance. It's the extremely low liquidity. There aren't many people who both have the money and are willing to buy here. And in a housing market that's correcting, luxury areas are the first to see capital pulled out. For those 50 and older, this is a risk that can't be ignored. A huge investment, high expenses, and when it's time to sell, no buyers. Coto de Caza is still picture perfect. But when everything becomes a mandatory standard instead of a choice, are you sure you're still in control of your own finances? 3. Aliso Viejo. When the suburban dream becomes an unsolvable financial equation, Aliso Viejo was once an ideal oasis. Good schools, plenty of supermarkets, wide parks, everything a middle-class family could want for a peaceful life after 50. But that dream has now become too expensive to hold on to. The median home price in Aliso Viejo is nearing $1 million, but residents' incomes, especially retirees or those on fixed incomes, haven't kept pace. According to a recent market analysis video, Aliso Viejo was listed among the high-risk areas because the cost of buying and owning far exceeds the realistic affordability of new buyers. The truth is now clear on the market. Listings keep rising, price cuts happen frequently, and time on market is getting longer. The market is slowing down noticeably. For middle-aged and older adults, that means if one day they need to cash out, to move to a lower-cost state or cover medical needs, selling a home in Aliso Viejo is no longer easy. One older family shared, they bought a home here in 2022, hoping the market would keep rising. But by 2025, after months of trying to sell, they were forced to cut nearly $100,000 off the price just to find a buyer, ending the dream of asset growth. Aliso Viejo is still a desirable suburb if you've paid off your mortgage and don't need liquidity. But if you're hoping for financial flexibility, this place could turn into a shiny, suburban trap. 2. North Tustin. Luxurious, quiet, and stuck. North Tustin isn't for everyone, and that's exactly what gives it its reputation. Spacious homes, large lots, open spaces, this place offers a unique sense of living, unlike anywhere else in Orange County. But what makes it special can also be the very reason many people 50+ find themselves unable to get out. Over the past 3 years, home prices in North Tustin have skyrocketed, with many reaching between $1.6 and $2 million. But when interest rates hit above 6%, the market began to react, and not in a positive way. Time on market has nearly doubled, and many deals are closing below list price. That makes one thing clear: buyers are becoming cautious, and luxury homes, especially large lot properties that are harder to maintain, are no longer a priority. The biggest risk in North Tustin for middle-aged and older adults isn't the purchase price. It's the ability to exit. If you want to downsize, to move into something smaller and easier to care for, you'll quickly discover it's not easy to sell here unless you're willing to cut prices deeply. And with oversized homes, the costs of maintaining yards, pools, and roofs can eat up thousands of dollars each year, even if you live alone. A 60-year-old man once shared, "I just wanted to sell my house, buy something smaller, and spend my time traveling. But no one wants to pay what I need because they're afraid of the maintenance costs." North Tustin remains a symbol of prestige and privacy. But without a long-term financial plan, or the ability to hold on to your property without needing to sell quickly, this isn't the place for those entering retirement. 1. San Diego. The dream of blue seas turned into a financial trap. Blue seas, warm sun, a slower pace of life. San Diego has long been the retirement dream of millions of Americans. But for many over 50, that dream is turning into a dangerous financial experiment. Beneath the calm exterior of this coastal city lies a turbulent undercurrent of costs and the housing market. According to the latest data, housing inventory in San Diego jumped 61% in just 1 year, a truly alarming figure. That means oversupply, weakening demand, and sellers growing impatient. Average days on market have climbed past 40, and the share of discounted listings continues to rise. Clear signals of a correcting market. For younger buyers, this might look like an opportunity to hunt for bargains, but for middle-aged and older adults, the risk lies elsewhere. Ownership costs quietly eating away at retirement budgets. The median home price in San Diego is now close to $1 million, and property taxes here are higher than in Orange County, 0.72% versus 0.677%. But the biggest concern is home insurance, especially in areas near the coast or at risk of wildfires. After a string of natural disasters in 2025, major insurance companies have either raised rates or exited the California market entirely, forcing many residents onto the FAIR plan, with limited coverage and high premiums. A 58-year-old man once shared that he used most of his savings to buy a beachfront home in San Diego, hoping to enjoy a peaceful retirement. But just 2 years later, his insurance costs had risen more than 35%. Maintenance and taxes exceeded his projections, and when he tried to sell, the market had stalled, with no buyers willing to pay his asking price. He called it a retirement dream trapped between two waves: costs and the market. San Diego is still beautiful, still appealing, but the question remains, is that beauty worth the financial risks you, as someone over 50, might have to bear for years to come? We've just gone through 10 cities that seemed like ideal destinations. From Tustin to San Diego, from Villa Park to Fountain Valley. But behind the beauty, the location, and the convenience lies a hidden layer of risk quietly eroding the financial security of those over 50. High interest rates, soaring insurance premiums, a slowing market, and tightening cash flow. With every decision to buy or sell, you're not just transacting a house. You're betting on whether your retirement will be secure or unstable. The practical advice: don't be swayed by listings that promise great prices or the perfect place to live if you haven't looked at the full cost picture. Always account for the total cost of ownership, liquidity, environmental risks, and even the peace of mind that comes with knowing you can sell when you need to.